Hey there guys, it's Rick here again with AirgunWeb, where we tell you the facts, not fluff. And of course, you're home for old school airgun reviews. Are you guys ready for part 2 of our look of the Avenger versus the Gauntlet, or as compared to the Gauntlet 2? I mean, how do you want to say it? Head to head, whatever. Now we're going to see how they do out in the field. Now we've talked about the big differences between the two guns. Really, they're producing about the same amount of power. They have slightly, obviously, well, not slightly, they have a massively different aesthetic. The function is different between one's got a side lever, one's got a bolt. But really what it comes down to is how do they perform when you're going to take them out and do some shooting. Well, this part got very, very interesting. So first thing I want to talk about are the optics we're running. So everything I tried to do in this test between these two products was make it as the same as I possibly could. So I have the same exact scopes. These are the Hawk Vantage 30 wide angle side focus first focal plane 4-16s. I probably got those out of order, sorry Hawk, but they're a very nice, probably the nicest version of the Vantage that they offer. 30 mil tubes, just really, really nice scopes. I like a first focal plane personally, and these really deliver well in that capacity. Really nice etched glass reticle, just a really good optic, and we're running the exact same optic on both guns. Same mounts on both guns. I'll tell you something that happened because it's just an important point of note. I actually bought this gun for this test, got it in, scoped it up, and I was nowhere near enough up adjustment. So somewhere in this, the barrel is kind of a little bit low. Now, what do you do when that happens? Well, I could just throw it in the box and send it back. Certainly is something that I don't think is factory. It should have been not that way, but it was. But I have this video to do, and really the reality is it was very accurate, it was just low. So how do you address that? Well, you can shim the back of the scope with different materials, or you can spend a few bucks and go to Hawk, and they actually make plastic shims. They give you an extra 25-minute of angle just by popping the shims in place. You don't bend your tube, you don't mess up your scope. They drop right in, put your scope caps on, and you're back in business. Well, that's what I did with this, and we're on with plenty of adjustment. So that's how I fixed that problem. If you want to know more about those shims, just ask me in the comments. I'll point you in the right direction. They are a lifesaver. I keep those on hand because I can't tell you how often I run into that problem where I just don't have enough adjustment on my scope. That solves it very easily without mucking up my scope. All right, so down to business. Let's talk about how I did these tests. So it was calm in the morning, so the very first thing we did was shoot our accuracy tests. I took a couple test shots before starting my groups to make sure we were good to go, and then I ran the magazine, maintaining my hold, okay? So if it was a little bit off dead nut center, look, I just maintained my shot, my point of impact, my sight picture, excuse me, and just let the pellets fall where they went. Now, the Avenger, I had to fill up in between each test because it just doesn't have the shot count. The Gauntlet, I ran all my tests, but I did fill up before we did the 100-yard test. So just so you guys know, that's how we did the tests. We shot 2 mags for each gun at 50 and 75 yards, and we shot 1 mag at 100 yards for both guns. All right, so that's what we did. Now, these are our groups, and I gotta tell you, just full up, there is no distinct massive winner anywhere here on the accuracy side. They're pretty much the same. Now, I say that because the margin of error with the guy behind the trigger, I'm not an expert shot. I'm shooting on a rest, on a bench with wind in outdoor conditions. There are going to be some variations, right? There are going to be a few things that are going to make one do a little bit better one time and another one do a little better a different time. And when you average these out, okay, so in this particular test at 50 yards, the G2 did a fraction better. Average center to center was 0.71 inch center to center, and the Venturi Avenger was 0.77 inches center to center. So really, yes, I mean, one did a fraction better, but did I just tweak this shot a little bit? Or, I mean, it's so close. I want to just reiterate, that performance on paper with these guys is so ridiculously close, it's not even funny. Now, when we go to the 75-yard shots, I had one flyer here that just got away, and that completely blew out my average. Because when you look at this group right here, that is awesome. Okay, so that group at the bottom is, it's like under an inch at 75 yards, which is awesome. And you see the Avenger is pretty consistent. I mean, this was my first group. This is my second group. And you see, actually, you see these shots down here? Remember, I don't know if you remember my, in the first video where I said that velocity difference, when does it start to matter? Well, it starts to matter at 75 yards because this group here on this shot card at 75 yards, I was 1.5 mil holdover. When I went to the Avenger, the first mag right here, I was 1.5 mils. But for whatever reason, when we got to the second mag, I had to bring that shot group up to the second mil dot. So I started having to aim a little bit higher as I got into the shot curve. Not that there's much of a shot curve there, but I did have to aim a little bit higher on this second mag because my first shots landed down here, you see? So rather than just have the shots out of the center, I reloaded the mag a couple times to make sure I was hitting where I needed to be, and then I ran 8 shots there. Very good, respectable group there, right? But, excuse me, very good, respectable group here, but it was lower. So that difference in velocity does matter. Now, we've got this one really errant shot right here on this target, and I just didn't count it, okay? So I measured the core group, whether that was I screwed up and pulled the, used the wrong mill or whatever it was. I'm going to mark that up to user error, shooter error. But I just measured this core group. And the Avenger average was, yes, the Avenger average was 1.1 inch center to center, so long I didn't take that shot, right? Now, on the Gauntlet, I did take the kind of wide shot, and if I hadn't, we'd be looking at a dead even heat again. But the Gauntlet was 1.42 inches center to center at 75 yards. So each one had a little bit of a variation. The Gauntlet was very consistent. I did not have to change my hold at all between shot, the first shot group and the second shot group. It's 1.5 mils, and I was dead on the money. Now, when we get to 100 yards, it's a very interesting story because the Gauntlet, if I was 1.5 mil holdover at 75, at 100 yards, I was 3 mils. So you just put the dot where you wanted. And I had one errant shot, and I did measure both, like the full group and then just this core group. But I had one errant shot. Again, was that me pulling the trigger? And I believe, I don't remember at this point, but if we go back to the video, that may have been my first shot. So it may not have come off the plenum right. I just don't know. But the rest of my shots, I didn't change my hold. These are where the rest of my shots landed. That's 100 yards. And that is, for a $400 gun, is impressive, $450 gun. That is impressive as far as I'm concerned. So the first, if I take the whole group, all right, so 100 yards center to center for the Gauntlet was 2.64 inches center to center. If I pull that one out, sort of like what I did for the Avenger over here, if I pull that one out, then I'm looking at 1.54 inches center to center. So under 2 inches at 100 yards. To me, that is awesome. That is just really impressive. Now we come over to the Avenger, and that's what we got at 100 yards. Now I was having to aim almost using the 4th mil. So the drop became more significant, and that's going to happen. So if you start a lower velocity, those pellets are going to bleed energy. So the further you go out, the more dramatic the drop's going to be between the two guns. So if you want something that's just a fraction flatter shooting, then the Gauntlet's got more power. It's going to do that, versus the Avenger, which is going to drop. You're going to have more holdover the further out you go. But again, that's what we got. That's impressive as far as I'm concerned, out of a gun that sits at $430. Okay, so that center to center on that is 1.98 inches. So when I'm looking at these numbers, really the reality as far as I'm concerned, these guns really on paper are gonna produce about the same. Now, what's going to be the difference is the guy behind the trigger or the girl behind the trigger. So do you like the way this feels? Do you like the adjustable cheek rest? Or do you like the wood stock? Do you like the pull length? What do you like? What resonates with you with these two guns that gives you the feature set you need? Well, that's your choice. As I said right in the beginning, both of these guns, frankly, are just awesome. They shoot well, they perform well. If shot counts your thing, the G2. If ease of operation's your thing, then maybe the Avenger. I mean, they're just, I don't know what to say. On paper, they just produced such great results. You know, as I look at these, and I want to shoot at 100 yards a whole lot more often. Man, if I hadn't shanked that one shot, right, or that one errant shot hadn't happened, I mean, we're looking at an inch and a half essentially at 100 yards. To me, that's impressive out of a gun that is this affordable, and both of the guns just did well, whether 50, 75, or 100 yards, both of these guns performed. That's basically it, guys. These guns are, well, the Gauntlet G2 should be available very shortly, probably very, very close to around the time you're watching these videos. You should be able to get a G2. The Avenger woodstock's already available, and the Avenger Synthetic is also available. I know I said I wasn't going to compare the two variations of each guns, but I will say that the difference between the Synthetic Avenger and the Woodstock Avenger is significant. I put this in a whole nother class. The Woodstock really changes how this gun feels, how it performs, how it shoots. So if you're trying to save a few bucks and think the Synthetic's going to be just like this, I have not found that to be the case. I think the woodstock adds a lot of value, not just the fact that it's woodstock, but adds shooting value to the gun, makes it a nicer gun to shoot. The G2, I mean, it just blows the old G1 out of the water. And it's impressive. Just both of these guns are really good for the price point. I hope that's been informative. I know that basically we come down to the end of it and it's just a toss-up, which is actually, I think, pretty cool, because then it just comes down to what feature set do you like. That's pretty much it. Guys, that's it for now. If you like these kinds of videos where we kind of take things and go head-to-head with them, let me know. And maybe it's something we can work into the schedule. Well, guys, that is going to be it for now. My name's Rick Utzer here with AirgunWeb, where we tell you the facts, not fluff. Your home for old school airgun reviews. Thanks for watching.